election tribunal judgment that happened has set a precedence for every other tribunal cases we are going to have in the states. So whatsoever has emanated from that cases will become the standard which with every other cases might follow. So candidates who still insist that, okay, we're still going to push more, we're still going to, even if we have not won in this particular, we're going to take it to a higher level to prove our case, should already know where their case would lie. So in the case of blaming who, it's a multifaceted challenge in our economy. We're talking about the INEC itself, talking about the judiciary, talking about the candidates who should be able to prove it. But like I always say, and I will continue to say it, let us begin to look at Nigeria. We have a lot of challenge, which we must challenge that is collective, challenge that which can only be solved by allowing those who had won, no matter the party, sit down and ensure that they move the economy forward. What we can do as candidates is to look at them, begin to advise them, if possible, criticize them, to ensure that they do the right thing and we move our country forward.
Right. So, Prof, to add to that, I mean, judges say these petitioners cannot provide enough witnesses and evidence to back allegations of malpractices. So, do you think losers are only eager to approach the court, as some people allege? Our democracy is still evolving, and there's a lot of things that politicians will begin to know as we proceed, we move on. Many politicians sometimes are advised by their lawyer. They have lawyers who advise them on how to go about this. And like you, the question you have asked is a right question, where candidates are enthusiastic, they have that enthusiasm to move into the court without actually filing up their cases properly to be able to present a proper case. So you end up seeing that some of these cases are jettisoned because of lack of merit. And again, the judicial system at this time also must stand up. I am not saying that we should throw up a legal case because we want to move a country. And what I'm saying is this: let us, as candidates who have run for the election, who did not win, begin to allow those who have won to have space, enough space to govern the people, enough space to do the right thing. We just have some few months to the end of this year. We have less than 3 years to end the 4 years administration. So less than 4 years to end the 4 years administration. Time is going. So back to your question, many candidates may not have the right advice because going to court to file a petition has a lot to do with advice from your legal team, and it also depends on the credibility, the experiences of the legal team that has been engaged to do that job for them. Right. So let's talk about the Kano Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal, which overturned victory of Governor Yusuf over invalid ballot papers. Who do we blame for this?
I think I don't really, because we look at the case, the INEC, what the court has, the petition tribunal has verdict they've given, and why have they given it? If there are invalid ballot which was seen, so where was this ballot gotten from? So where were these ballots kept? These are processes that, as we begin to move on in our election in Nigeria, we begin to, we live in a country where there's a lot of abnormalities. People can use what they have to get what they have, even if it's legally or non-legally. So where did they get this ballot from? So I think there's need, beyond just the judgment, to further investigate where all this emanates from. Where are the ballots kept? Is it kept in the CBN? Is it kept in police? Where? And how was it printed? No. So we're talking about who to blame. The blame is not just about looking at the candidates or the. It's a systemic. What's it called? I don't want to use the word failure, but it's a systemic thing that has to do with a lot of chain reaction. So we need to blame the system. We need to blame those who are engaged in the system, which includes the regulators, which includes the security, which includes those who ballots were kept, which includes even the people who are supposed to be protectors of every other person. I mean, I'm talking about the general citizens of Nigeria. So once we begin to get this right, we will not just be talking about who to blame, we're talking about what is the root cause of the abnormalities and how do we find a permanent solution to it.
All right, but in Enugu State, the tribunal upheld the election of Governor Mbah, ruling that NYSC certificate has no basis in the election. I would like to have your reaction to that as well.
Okay. The tribunal has, where they read from, the constitution has a lot of dimensions through which you can read from. We believe as graduates of, as Nigerians who have gone through the university, that it becomes compulsory that you serve your country through the NYSC scheme, and that also becomes an eligibility for you to work with federal parastators to vie for political office. And if the INEC, the tribunal says that that is not a case, is not a case, then I think lawyers, people who are lawyers, I'm not a lawyer, and we are beginning to see different dimension of what's it called, judgment coming up. Judgment that we will be looking at this direction, and we look at it, and what we are getting is from another direction. We cannot here to say, oh, the verdict of the tribunal is wrong, but it is for us to look at these cases and study it more and make it a further template for future election.
Right. So, Prof, for better perspective, and I'd like you to be very detailed, how will you describe the position of INEC in all of these litigations?
Okay. INEC is actually the prime mover for the election. They are the center, they are in the center of the game. They provide the logistics, they provide the template to which every candidate will run for the election. And it's quite disheartening that everybody would blame INEC. I'm not here to also speak for them. But remember, we already have a system in Nigeria that is very hard for things to work, no matter how much you budget. We have people in Nigeria who are ready to ensure that nothing works. You might not be everywhere. We run an analog economy. Even if you're trying to infuse a digital input into what is analog, it might be hard for you to synchronize. So the system by itself might not actually permit a perfect operation. That is just the truth. INEC have a lot of blame. I have a lot of fault in terms of so many things. People talk about not transmitting the results, as to what were promised by them. Those are major flaws, believe me, from what we observed. I was a candidate. I saw how the election went. We were not happy with so many things. But we also saw people who were not even members of INEC, who were on ground, also doing what they ought not to do. And it's more like the tradition of Nigerian election. So trying to just put all the blames to INEC, I think it might not be fair. We already have a system that every business, even if you're a business owner in Nigeria, by the time you do your business in Nigeria, you understand what I'm saying. Let alone trying to run an election for the population of Nigeria, 36 plus FCT in 774 local governments, there would always be something wrong. But the issue of not transmitting the election, we all blame the INEC, and we believe that in subsequent election, things should get better.
So talking about subsequent elections, for the purpose of the off-cycle elections in November, where does INEC need to tighten its belt?
Number one, in the distribution of the ballots, ballot paper by itself is a sensitive material. It must be treated sensitive. Number two is voters' education. Many of the voters in Nigeria do not have the proper education. INEC needs to increase its sensitivity, its sensitization of election in those states. We have in Kogi, we have in Imo. By now, we should be seeing education of the populace. We should be letting them know what it takes to vote and how to vote. We have these issues happening here and there. Two, and number three, logistics is key. Sincerity of INEC staff. The staffs of INEC need to be trained all over again. If INEC is going to engage in ad hoc staff, there should be enough time for them to have training. We've seen ad hoc staff come to polling units, and yet they don't know how to operate this gadget. 2 or 3 days training is not enough for them. And most importantly, INEC must lead a roadmap to the people. They must be very, very sincere about this. Whatsoever they have said or tell the people should be what we stand. If there will be need for any change, because in any process, of course, there might be situations might arise
that might need for a slight change, there should be proper communication, there should be proper PR, public relations to the people, sensitize them, and most important, like I said, sincerity. The system must be checked, the digital system. If INEC is going to be using the beavers operation must be communicated, how it's going to work. There must be proper, on time. There must be on-time communication to the people so that we can hold INEC responsible of what they have said and compare it to what has happened in the election.
All right. I mean, so we've seen some innovation in court proceedings like live telecast and virtual delivery of judgments. How do you think these will benefit the system?
Sorry, I didn't get that, sorry.
So recently, we've seen some innovation in court proceedings like live telecast and virtual delivery of judgments. How do you think these will benefit the system?
It will. These are conditional situations that warrant, for example, the Kano State judgment. I don't think anyone would have actually want the judgment to be delivered physically because of security issues. We know Kano State, we know the movement, we know the two parties, we know how it is. I think the world is becoming digital. So if Nigeria justice system and judiciary system is now employing that to solve or cushion effects or predetermined effect that might emanate, why? It's fine. It's a welcome development. We saw where the PC was transmitted live on various stations. We now see innovation coming in. It's a welcome development that we now see this happen. But like I would always say, and I'll keep repeating myself, let us face our country. I think we have gotten to a time now. If we are through with the election in February, this is August, as in this September. We need to start facing the economy and start working with those who are already on board, encourage them, support them, advise them, if possible, criticize them in possible ways just to ensure that we have a better country.
All right. Prof, let's take a break. I've been speaking with Professor Christopher Imumalen, presidential candidate of a Accord Party in the 2023 presidential election. Tonight we're discussing post-election litigations and Nigeria democracy. Let's take a break and I'll be right back. Let's stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. This is Politics Tonight, where we dig beyond the headlines. And I've been speaking with Professor Christopher Imumalen, presidential candidate of a Accord Party in the 2023 presidential election. Tonight we're discussing post-election litigations and Nigeria's democracy. All right, Prof, before we go on to other national issues, the Nigerian judiciary has gone through various forms of controversies in recent times because of, as a result of some of the judgments that people felt were short of expectations. But you find some senior advocates and lawyers who have said, you and I have no right to decide for the judges because the judges have the facts. So when it comes to intimidation and harassment of the judges, where do you stand?
Election matter is usually a very painful one. It's just like sports. When a particular team of yours loses the election, you want to criticize. For this, we saw what happened in the election. We saw a particular movement and online, and I already know that once the judgment does not favor a particular movement, there will always be criticism. So the intimidation is unnecessary. The judges, be it as it may, have pronounced their judgment. What the citizen must do is to look at what has happened, prepare better for the next election, and wish yourself the best. So for us, for me in particular, we condemn such intimidation. It's not good for our system. It's not good for our justice. Even if we feel that whatsoever judgment has emanated from the tribunal is not one that favors us, it's not enough for us to ridicule that institution. It's a sacred institution that must be respected. it's one that we must support because it's our judge system. So we must support it, and we must respect whatsoever comes from there. And if you feel you are not satisfied, I believe what needs to be done is, like for those who want to continue in the case, prepare better and present a better case.
All right. So let's talk about national issues and particularly the economy. Some have argued that petrol subsidy may return. What's your position on this?
We've seen what happened to the removal of subsidy in Nigeria, moved in June, immediately after the president was sworn in, and we saw how that by itself inflicts on the cost of every commodity, inflation rate. And, I would not stand here but to say the truth that hardship has also increased in the face of Nigeria. Schools are just resuming. Parents are finding it difficult to go back to schools to pay the school fees of their children. Workers who even work cannot even afford to pay transport, let alone to feed themselves. So it is in our face reality that things, and this hardship has been there even before the subsidy removal. Although it's important that subsidy must be removed because we cannot continue as a nation to use all our revenue even to service our debt when the subsidy by itself is the largest source of depletion on our national reserve. So it must be removed. We must have this tough time, and we must believe that, okay, let us have this tough time, believing that we are going to have a better future. In believing that, government also must stand up to the responsibility of cushioning the hardship of the people to ensure that they provide relief and palliatives that gets to the people. It's just unfortunate that we do not have a system and we don't have a data to actually affect the very poor of this country. However, subsidy must be removed, but hardship that has been meted of the people must be sincerely, critically, and charitably looked into.
Right. So experts have.
So in the case of whether the subsidy will come back, I think that is a decision for the president to make. But look at even the forest exchange that we thought would dwindle has gone up. Today, it's over 900 and something, closing to 1,000 naira to a dollar. So it's a decision for the president to look at critically with his team and decide, looking at other variables. So we'll be here looking, but our appeal is that the hardship on the people should be critically looked into, because I believe that the role of every government is to improve the welfare of its people. So if the people are going to temporarily go through hardship, the government, which I believe are responsible enough, should begin. And we see a lot of intervention being rolled out, but carefully ensuring that this intervention gets to those that need it. It is not hijacked along the way, putting people with credibility, with track record, who have charitable mind, who are humanitarian by personality, to channel those projects so that Nigerians can, while sacrificing for this moment, at least will live to see the future that we envisage.
Right. So there is this argument, especially by experts, that the way out of the subsidy removal pain is local refining. Our refiners are still down while Dangote Refinery is yet to begin operations. What can the country do at this time?
Okay, I've always advised this. I also have little experience in the oil and gas. I haven't served as the president onshore offshore oil and gas professionals in Nigeria. And one of my basic advice is this. We have an intrinsic economy. Majorly part of the oil theft we have is being done in the creek, in the Niger Delta and other parts of the country where our pipeline passes through. And we look at the instrument and the equipment that these boys in the creek use in converting crude oil into blue gas. I said it that the cost of diesel shoot up because large part of our diesel being consumed in Nigeria is produced illegally. And so once the battle of shutting down illegal small-scale refinery in the creek started, you saw the price of crude oil went up. Because there was no crude oil, so the price of diesel went up, AGO. So what we must look at is not just about the Dangote Refinery. Perfect, 19 billion investment is going to employ a lot of people. We have the LMA Petrochemical, we have the Warri Refinery, we have the Kaduna Refinery. These refineries are not working. Even if they are working, some of them are working far below optimal expectation. What must begin to look at? Let us begin to look at small-scale modular refinery setup. These are quicker measures to ensure that we begin to refine our crude, because that is truly the only way out, to refine our crude. When we begin to refine our crude here, then it means that the cost of logistics, pushing crude and getting back product, would have been jettisoned. We can produce our crude and we have a just-in-time product for Nigerians. We need over 50 million liters consumption on daily basis. So if we produce, on daily basis, we have about 1.22 million barrels of crude being produced on a daily basis. So it means that we have what it takes. So we can encourage, look at small-scale refinery, bring innovation and research, and begin to look at how this small-scale refinery can be re-engineered. Today, Taiwan, Japan, developed by the virtue of reverse engineering. They look at small engineering and technology, and they use those knowledge to produce what they need to develop as a country. Yes, we might call this operation illegal, but we can tap into the advantage of what these local guys are doing, begin to have local production of, because what we need is to produce. Once this equipment is being fabricated in a way that it can now produce environmental friendly. Today, the NNPC has signed the United Nations Global Impact to ensure that we begin to do business ethically, we begin to have our production in a way that is environmentally friendly, and we begin to engage in more CSR. That also can be duplicated in this small, medium, even far below the modular refinery. Once we have a lot of people engaged, I think it's going to become a faster way of getting out of this. Our refinery might take years to be refurbished. The Dangote refinery, fine, but it's still going to take time for it to kick off. We need something, it's an emergency for us, and we need to quickly get out of this. And the only way, like everybody has said, is local refinery. Not just encouraging the setup of the 3 refineries that we already have and Dangote, to also encourage modular refinery setup and small scale. There's something called small scale refinery setup, which we must look in. And that by itself will begin to push our economy to become one of the largest, or not just crude oil producing economy, refined products produced economy in the world.
All right, Prof. You've just talked about local and modular refinery, but why do you think this has been a challenge for past administration?
It's licensing. No one is thinking, and maybe they are thinking about it. I don't want to say no one is. Maybe they are thinking about it. But the fear of wanting to do something new, if you want to have enemies, just create more enemies. Just try to do something new. We just want to build our pattern with the same way the other part of the world. But we have our local problem. In the United States, for example, tip is legalized. Just tip, because they begin to look at this. We cannot jettison this out of our system. Even citizens of America now pay tax from tip. So if we look at these issues, they are criminal issues, but we can legalize it, control it, and manage and monitor it for national good. Why not? So it is that step that we need to take, and that step is a bold one, and that step needs to be taken by those who have the heart for the nation. We love what has happened, that the NNPC is now being reformed. We saw what is happening with the retirement of some directors just in a bid to rebuild a new NNPC. Those steps are needed, and that steps can also go further in looking at creativity, local creativity in solving our local problem.
Right. All right, Prof. So let's move away from that. I want us to talk about politics of inclusion in terms of youth and women representation as promised by the president. How well do you think he has delivered in this regard?
So far, so good. I can say this, it's there. SSAs and SAs been appointed, ministers been appointed. For a very long time, I don't think we have seen an administration who had appointed as many youths in top government. We are seeing those in 32. The Minister of Youth, the lady, she's less than 40. We've had DGs now at 32, 20. This, to me, even it's more like I won the election, because this is what we wanted, youth inclusion. Seeing the youth is a fulfillment and happiness to people like us who contested as for president as the only youth in the election. Though many persons would say, we didn't know you, we didn't see your face, but we were fighting for something. What we wanted is, we wanted the youth, we wanted the female gender, the women, to be included in Nigerian scheme of things. Because I believe that we, in this age, the age of 30, 40s to 50, are the age where we have the strength, the mental capacity to support who becomes the president, the governors, in building our nation. So what we have seen so far, a case where about 80% of the SAs, SSAs, large percentage from the Senate, from the ministers are youth. It's encourageable, and we love it. We, as a party, as an individual, we actually commend the president and his team for this great job and great work they've done to the youth. But however, we must also now advise those youth who have been given this appointment that it is time for you to ensure that you truly represent this generation. Because imagine if at the end of your tenure you didn't do well, then it means that the light have been dimmed on every other youth, because there's this general belief that the youths are actually the one that can rescue this nation. Looking back from those who fought for independence, did so when they were young. So we still have this ideology in our mind that give the youth a chance. We had a time where the Not Too Young bill was pushed by many of us, so many people from internal and external, and we got it. Now, President Tinubu has given that opportunity for the youth to be included in his government. Those who have the opportunity should see it as an opportunity not to be misused, as an opportunity to show that they have what it takes. And believe me, we as youths will be looking, will be watching, will be around to making sure that we criticize, we encourage, we push them to represent the general youth well.
That's great. I'm sure you have also monitored this administration's economic diplomacy. How will you rate it?
It's wonderful. As in, you know, when I talk like this, people might just say, I call you a prof. Why you just... Well, see, when we say things that is okay, we say it. And when it's not okay, we also say it. You know, look at, we have the president, the vice president traveling at the same time to various countries, working. We see this, we see hard work had come to place. We see Nigeria for a very long time being mentioned on a global stage. We see, you know, investors now preparing to looking at Nigeria as a direction to come. Because we now see the team of the president, we see the president chunking out. Yesterday we heard a wonderful speech given by Mr. President on the news in the United Nations. You know, to not just talking about Nigeria alone, talking about the African continent in context, talking about the West Africa, selling us to the world the way it ought to be. You know, so if you look at the economic diplomacy, is one that has started on a good note, and we just believe that the government should keep engaging bright minds, engaging those that have the virtues and the knowledge to ensuring that Nigeria is rebranded. You know, we need to, is rebranded to a country that should be seen as an opportunity, not as a liability to the world. And that is what I see is, the current government is doing.
All right, so talking about the president's speech at the United Nations General Assembly, what part of that speech was most remarkable for you?
A lot, from the beginning of the speech to the end of the speech. You know, especially when the president said that we do not need to replace, you know, old problem with new shackles. It was a fundamental statement because, you know, the world generally is beginning to look at Africa as a field to trade. When I say trade, a field to trade their battles. You know, this is a very sensitive topic. We saw what is happening in Niger. We saw what is happening in Mali and nearby West African countries, the coup d'etat. You know, you begin to know that there are forces that have a kind of connectivity to this. Because we just pray that what happened in Berlin conference should not repeat itself, where countries in the West would want to pick who should be by our side. But again, it's a time for Nigeria to sit right and begin to look at the situation so that we can make decisions and take advantage of that need. We are now in high need. We are in high demand as Africans because the West cannot do the same thing they are doing to Africa, to Asia, to Europe, but they want to do it to Africa. But now we need to bargain and be on the table to making sure that whatsoever we do at this time is what will favor us as a region, not just in West Africa, as Nigeria as a country. So part of that statement was that statement that we must not exchange old problem with new shackles. You know, and other statement that the president made in that speech was wonderful. You know, marketing the opportunities in Nigeria to the rest of the world. You know, these are wonderful, phenomenal statements that will stand the test of time.
I mean, just like you said, from ECOWAS to AU, G20 and UN, the president has received rave reviews for his outings. But what do you think the president has going for him?
I think one is his team. The president is selecting a phenomenal team. I must applaud the president for that. And again, the president is a very experienced person. Being a governor, a senator, kingmaker, you know, his age is really, he's using whatever people have used to demean his weakness as a strength. So the president he has put all these experiences together, and I would say at this point, maybe I don't know about tomorrow, that if I lost the elections for Tinubu, for President Tinubu, sorry, it's okay, because whatever I would have done is doing it better on that stage. So what is going for him is his team, is his personality, and his experience, you know, to galvanize the people together, to deliver speech that are wonderful, and you know, to attract the mind of investors, which is paramount. What we must get from all those speech to get investors. But again, like I said, getting investors has a lot of role to play. We need to fix our country. We need to look at our policies. We need to ensure that we have a very good business-friendly environment for investors to come. We need to look at our visa policies, our business policies, double taxation, a lot of things which I believe the president would and the team would work on.
Right. Prof, you said a lot this evening, and I must commend you for your honest opinion. But overall, what other areas do you want the president to focus on in reviving the economy?
It's very important. Like I said, I just mentioned a brief of them, is the business environment and economy of Nigeria. There's a lot of outdated, archaic policies that must be jettisoned. You see countries like Dubai. The free trade zone is free. The free trade zone in Nigeria is not working. You can set up a business in Dubai, and you will be supported. In countries like Rwanda, for example, you can set up a business in 9 hours, register a company. You know, you should be aware that one of the toughest visa to get by a foreigner in the US and China is Nigerian visa, and we are a country that needs investors to come in. We have great business challenge. We need to database our economy. We need to encourage local investors first, you know, by creating that. I know a lot of work needs to go in. So that focus on ensuring that we have good business climate for Nigerians in diaspora, eventually Nigerians outside Nigeria, countries nearby would have a year of return, where every black citizen will be encouraged to come back to invest. I know we've been having mild security challenges here and there. There's great effort to ensure that but more effort needs to be appointing credible and people who have the mind to work day and night to also help the president in ensuring that our economy gets to run again. You know, and so many other things. I know these are challenges that have been there even before he came in, and it's not going to take a day to get them fixed. It's work in progress. And we are here to ensure that we keep watching, we keep encouraging, we keep, like I said, if need be, criticize for the economy to move better.
Right. So quickly before we go, Prof, what's your final message to Nigerians this evening?
My final message is that Nigerians should be patient. You know, when we use the word patient, people say we have been patient enough. Okay, don't lose hope. Hope is the last thing that a man should lose. Once you lose hope, then there's nothing. You know, a man can die even before he dies. Once there's no hope to live, sure, you're already dead. We must not lose that hope. As a country, we can and we will still make it. We just need to begin to see the opportunities around us. There are so many opportunities around us. Someone once said, if you are asked to get 1 billion naira and not wake up the next day, Would you take it? Say no, because your life worth more than 1 billion. So we have so many things that we can use to attract whatever we want. There are so many opportunities around us. There are men, there are people who are making it. I, for one, I'm an example of a Nigerian who started here in Nigeria, started a business, and today I'm where I am, whether it's a little or big. So we have so many opportunities in Nigeria. Yes, we have a lot of challenge by government, but there are still so many opportunities. So my call to Nigeria is, let us begin to focus on the opportunities we have, while we have patience to allow the government to fix.
All right, Prof. That's a good way to end the program. Thank you so much. I've been speaking with Professor Christopher Imumalen, presidential candidate of Accord Party in the 2023 presidential election. Tonight to discuss post-election litigations and Nigeria's democracy. Thank you so much, Prof, for your contribution and perspective on all our issues tonight. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to more conversation with you. Thank you. And thanks a lot for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter, now X, at TVC News NG, and Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Have a great weekend.
Toothpaste, Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection.
Why are we changing our toothpaste?
Because with Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection, I can be sure your teeth are cavity-free.
When you brush daily with Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection, its expert formula locks natural calcium in our teeth and helps protect them from cavity. Colgate is the world's most chosen toothpaste.
Colgate locks calcium in,
Keeps cavities out!
The new Colgate Mini Pack is now available at just 300 Naira.